Kurt's Movie Log Tape 2, date May 17th, 1980, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back review. I'm coming back with a sequel for a sequel. Just got back from a theater today, again. In a previous video I said the theater was packed. Well, it was a ghost town compared to this screening. I mean, people were willing to go Spider-Man mode just to see it. That felt more like an event than a casual movie night. I know some people don't like to go to the movies. Well, understandable. In that case, you should definitely check it out. This film is the reason movie theaters were built in the first place. Okay, The Empire Strikes Back is a sci-fi film. It's not a fantasy. Sci-fi technology, fantasy, magic, sci-fi, planets, fantasy, worlds, sci-fi, aliens, fantasy, elves, and the list goes on. And don't get me started on the science fantasy. No, seriously, don't.
A film with a rate, 10-point system I use,
It's pretty mathematical, but if it fails me, I have a backup system. It's more associative. First of all, there are 3 zones. The green one from 10 to 7, the gray one from 6 to 5, and the red one from 4 to 1. Every number has a code name. If my final thoughts match it, then it is probably the correct rating. A10 I call masterpiece. It's the undoubtable champion. It's the perfection. It's the exercise in excellence. A9 I call magic. It's an absolute best, but maybe less epic or special. It's the last number that will go on my favorites list. An 8 I call must-watch, and it's also a must-have because it's a great film. A7 I call joy. It's a good film and it's the last purchase worthy number. A6 I call vanilla. It's a competent film but not my cup of tea. A5 I call spark. It's an okay film that has something special about it. And it's the last number that I will recommend to anybody. A4 I call sleeping pill. Well, excuse me, it's a perfect balance of pros and cons that in the end probably the most forgettable and the most boring. A3 I call cheese or le fromage. It's a poorly made and or annoying film, but it still has something to grab on. A2 I call garbage. It's a bad movie with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. A1 is abomination. It's the only rating I give that indicates the movie has no right to exist. Oh yeah, the review. And we should start with the idea. When you talk about Star Wars and if you're gonna mention other movies, the first one that comes to mind is Star Trek the Motion Picture from 1979. Now I know New Hope was here first, but Star Trek the series were way before that. They are similar in a best of ways, but completely different. Also want to mention 2001 A Space Odyssey from 1968, and only because of technical reasons. Both of them flawless in the visual department. And obviously Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, you can't avoid comparison to the origin. The title Star Wars speaks for itself. As much as I like the star part, planets, vehicles, weapons, robots, animals, costumes, names, characters, powers, basically all the lore. But I'm not a big fan of the wars part of it. The politics, the empire, the rebellion, the civil war itself. War, as a matter of fact, as a film genre, is probably one of my least favorite. I should probably mention that I like my sci-fi a little bit darker. I'm talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, and of course Alien from 1979 by Ridley Scott.
That doesn't. Enjoyed the film I haven't.
The next one is the plot. From here on it's gonna be a spoiler zone. A bunch of kick-ass stuff from A New Hope are still present and still deliver. For starters, the Force is still strong with this one. Jedi Knights are still wielding their lightsabers, Han and Chewie are still piloting the best ship in the galaxy, and pew 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 still can hit anyone. Now both films have good writing, but I think the directing got a lot better in this one. I mean lines like, "A death mark is not an easy thing to live with." It was more fast-paced, the comedy aspect got a lot better, and it has a stronger rewatchability, probably. One of my favorite scenes is when Luke is hanging upside down trying to reach his lightsaber, and you can see as it slightly moves. That was such a moment of marvel. And how about that life hack from the book called How I Survived Extreme Temperatures using dead animal as a tent and went on a quest to save the galaxy. The way they took down Imperial walkers is so awesome, I'm sure it's gonna be borrowed in the future movies. Also, glad they decided to develop that Force storyline. And I really like the twist that the green little Muppet looking guy was actually Yoda. Now that I think of it, he actually looks and sounds like Kermit the Frog. Now, I'm not gonna lie, he was annoying at first, you gotta get used to him. But when he cuts to crap, you can actually see that he's a wise fella. Also, like that psychological sequence, Luke going to swamp to face Vader, actually none of that happened. But I'm not really sure about the last quarter of the film. In A New Hope, that was the strongest part, and in this one, it was kinda... But how about that twist though? And let's face it, we're here not for the acting. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, it's just not the strongest part. But I have to admit, the entire cast did better this time. Luke, you will go to the Dagobah system. First of all, we have Han Solo. I mean, that Harrison Ford guy is gonna go places. He was the best actor in the first film and he still keeps up. Next we have C-3PO. Liked him a lot better this time. I think Anthony Daniels did a great job, both the physical performance and the voice. He always sounds like an English butler to me. But the most drastic improvement was by James Earl Jones. His Darth Vader became more menacing. I mean, in A New Hope, he was kinda cartoonish. And let's talk about the visuals. Both Star Wars films have mind-blowing visuals. Not a single second reminds you of Earth. This ice planet of Hoth is by far my favorite location. Swampy Planet and the Cloud City were quite interesting as well. The POV flight fight scenes were phenomenal. This R2-D2 feels 100% real as the rest of the droids. Also, thumbs up to the camel-looking creatures, a Sasquatch and the world's favorite Wookiee. The design of Star Destroyers, X-Wing fighters, TIE fighters, Millennium Falcon for some reason, Imperial Walkers are just top-notch. I'm sure both of those films will hold up in, let's say, 40 years. So let's talk about XFactor now. As all sequels do, the soundtrack recycles lots of first film's themes. Personally, I have no problem with it, but I'm not gonna add on extra points for that. I can only highlight Lord Vader's theme. And now it's time to do the math. It gets 1 out of 2 for idea, love the star part, not a fan of Wars part. It gets 2 out of 2 for plot, bit of a stretch in the last quarter, but that twist though. It gets 1 out of 2 for acting, adequate but not exceptional. It gets 2 out of 2 for visuals, obviously, I mean, my god, pure art. It gets 0 out of 2 for XFactor, not every movie has it for me. Overall it gets 6 out of 10, which is not exactly my cup of tea. So that's it. In the end, I want to say that I have no doubt that this film will be loved by millions. An instant classic which third installment will be strongly anticipated. I recommend it to all sexes, ages, hell, to everything that breathes. So yeah, here's my review. Ciao!